In a world of extremes, true leadership is born from balance. The Global Creative Institute and inDrive Gala bring consciousness, vision, and action to the places where the future is. Davos is not the destination. It's the message.
In the preparation of this panel, we talked about sustainable security. It's not only security. What makes security sustainable? Can I start with you, Ariel?
I'm actually going to hand it off to David because he had a really good answer out there when we were talking about it.
Well, in that case, David, give us the answer, please.
Well, thank you, Ariel. Sustainable security to me means that it is security that is handled deftly enough that it is not intrusive on the lives of everyday people, that it does not cause them to revolt against the security apparatus. We all realize that we need security in our world, and as things are changing in AI and everything is moving so quickly, there are indeed threats that we need to protect against. But we need to walk that fine line of balance in a way that preserves human liberty while also protecting us and maintaining human safety. So it is sustainable means we are doing that balance.
Good answer.
That is a pretty good answer. Is there anybody else wants to answer this, or can I go to my next question?
Good evening, everyone. For me, sustainability is something actually absorbing the shocks, looking after your intelligence, and making the system safe in the functioning condition.
What are the most underestimated security risks in our world today, especially the IT environment? Want to start? I mean, I assume you see them every day.
Yeah, well, Daniel has already touched on a few ones that we're dealing with at Swisscom. I personally, I see with the increasing amount of data we're collecting, with the robotic systems, with the security cameras and so on. Obviously, privacy is a big topic that we need to be able to deal with and also put in place the right governance structure. That's for me also part of the sustainability question. It's really the governance structure that everybody agrees to, or let's say a large majority of us agree to. And we trust in ultimately. I think that's the fundamental part. And the other side is, increasingly we're putting artificial machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence tools in place. And the big topic there is hallucination. But essentially, today, those algorithms learn with data based on human-produced content. So books that have been written by humans, whatever websites that have been written by research papers that have been written by humans. And that is great. But as soon as, our robots and our machine learning algorithms start learning on computer-generated data, then we run a big risk of essentially losing control over that knowledge.
It's a dark game, Davos. All right.
As Alex said, the gap between the adoption of the intelligence and getting learning and education for the institution, that gap creates the really risk, because we are adopting the AI in a very fast speed, but at the same time, the training, even the institutions has to be built, which will create the knowledge for all the AI adoption. So that's what I feel, that's the risk we are taking. We are going too fast. At the same time, we have to also create the institution which will teach us.
What is the biggest underestimated security risk?
I would say that risk is people. We are underestimating how people are going to act and react when faced with the tremendous changes brought about by AI. On the action side, you can have just the one or two off bad actors who, given the power of gods, create something that wreaks havoc out of their garage. So obviously there's that side. But the other side is, how do people react? There's a significant percentage of the population that is very gullible. And when AI starts expanding, what are they going to do with that? So I think people are the biggest underestimated risk. Yes, there are many other risks, but the one that is not getting paid attention to is people.
And it could be the people that are using both the software, but also the physical AI, right? The tools that are behind it. Ariel, I think it's. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of double clicking on what David said, people are a big problem. And well, I'll give a specific example. A lot of people are using AI tools to vibe code, right? Or to assist them in engineering products. I would imagine everybody across all your teams has at least tried that once or twice, if not regularly. It speeds up your engineering efforts by like 10x, right? So you'd be silly not to use it. But the problem is a lot of those models have been trained on past coding data. So GitHub repos that someone else has made. From a security perspective, that's terrifying. And the reason that's terrifying is some code that worked before might have a bunch of vulnerabilities in it that have since been patched. And so you're basically making your software is becoming Swiss cheese. And a lot of times people don't actually have a proper like security framework or a process to validate code before they push it, which has resulted in the amount of vulnerabilities increasing like 50x, I think, in the last.
So is that an individual responsibility, organizational responsibility, or is this a government or a state responsibility?
That's an individual and organization responsibility. As an individual, if you're a good engineer, you shouldn't be pushing bad code. But as an organization, if you fail your customers, it's the organization's fault, and the organization takes, the revenue hit or the reputational hit. But I mean, it's as simple as just running something like Sneak or any one of those vulnerability scanners, or code scanners before you ship it.
Yeah, possibly. But on the other hand, sometimes we do have nation states. Right? I think Amazon released how many North Koreans have applied for jobs at Amazon with AI filters pretending to be somewhere else. Is that really an Amazon problem, or is it an industry problem, or is it something the government of the countries they're hosting, or maybe some other organization should?
That's a nation state problem for sure. Yeah. So the FBI, Liz Pelker is the special agent in charge of handling that for him. She's been doing a really good job of trying to catch them. The problem is most of the time it's not. The AI tooling makes it faster and makes it easier, but it's people in the system that end up failing that result in hiring like that happening. Speaking from experience, my last company, I was the CEO of a defense AI company for 8 years. We got a couple of those ourselves.
And Alexander, you're working much closer with the Swiss government, I would assume. So how do you look at it? Is it a Swisscom problem? Is it an engineering process problem? Or is it something broader?
I mean, Swisscom is 51% state-owned, so it is a national problem. And Swisscom, as the leading digital player, we also see a national responsibility for protecting Switzerland. So it's not just a corporate issue. Absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, how to deal with state actors as a small state like Switzerland, that's not a trivial question. So you put in place a lot of tools to defend, but there's not much you can do with North Korea or whoever.
Some of it is guidance, right? I mean, for example, the Americans put the CISO guidance out for quantum-ready encryption protection, right? I assume Switzerland does something similar, or does it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are now with regard to quantum, there's not yet the guidance out, but obviously, I mean, we are at Swisscom. We try in a lot of technologies in the quantum space as well. So, yeah.
So, what do you think? What should governments do differently, or should they get engaged in this question? Let's say, good engineers, they know what they're doing. Well, just leave it to them. Just leave it to the private sector.
I think it has to be a collaboration between the industry and government. Then only the implementation can happen. Only either a government or industry alone cannot do that. It has to come in a collaborative approach, in my opinion.
I would say we obviously need some regulation, but it needs to be light regulation and sensible regulation. For example, a lot of the people that are making those laws don't understand the technology. Some of them are of a generation that may not be as technologically adept, many of them. And also, they're not experts in that field. So Of course, it needs to be some regulation and sensible, but keep it light and then punish the bad actors. Have a heavy hand for the punishment for bad actors, but keep the regulation light enough to foster creativity.
So who has the upper hand today? Is it North Korea? What do you think?
It is the attackers. It's always the attackers, unfortunately. Let's say 5 years ago, right? If a new CVE was found or a new vulnerability was found, and you want to make a proof of concept, so a bit of code that would let you exploit that thing, you need a team of like 10 pretty skilled cyber operators and a couple weeks to build it. And lots of testing, lots of pulling your hair out because of headaches. Nowadays, a single person can do that in about 10 minutes. Because code generators have gotten really, really good. Defense is always at a disadvantage because you have to patch every single hole to make sure that nobody gets in. One attacker just needs one. But that's not to say that, AI has been super helpful for defense because part of defense is, as that gentleman over there was saying earlier, when you're trying to look at a bunch of cameras, for example, much like a cyber problem, you don't have enough people or butts in seats that you can put in to keep monitoring everything. With AI, you can at least make it more fair, but it's always.
Even attacker using tools that are out there. Tropic was very transparent in showing how much state-sponsored actors use the publicly available tools to attack security. It scales up very, very quickly. So, in that framework, what's the right amount of investment an organization, a country should make in security defenses? Is it a percentage base? What is the minimum? How do you think about it?
To me, or is it this?
Alexander first.
Yeah, I think it should be part of the defense budget. It's really part of the national defense. Looking at the best practices. Israel, I don't know how much Israel is spending, but I think they're doing pretty well in terms of cyber defense, but also on the attack side. So that should be a blueprint for most governments, I think, to really invest in those capabilities and essentially educating young people in learning, essentially going into a cyber defense career and graduating from that.
And do you think that's understood today? Is there urgency with the politicians and the folks around us?
I do think so, yes. That is, it's as usual with we are having these discussions about how big defense budget should be. But so obviously you could do more. But the urgency is there. I feel it has been understood.
If you already indicated, I think Israel also there. What do you think?
For me,
It would be India, but
I'm also from the U.S. Of course not.
well, talk about Pakistan too. So.
I don't think countries are spending enough on cyber defense.
Yeah.
Not even remote close. And the best example of that is Venezuela. The operation that happened in Venezuela a couple of weeks ago, part of that was knocking down the power grid and not knocking it down with a bomb, but knocking it down with a piece of malware. Most nation states do not have historically kept their cyber operations under wraps. The exception is Russia. Russia just does whatever they want. But when it comes to the U.S., historically, even when they've done cyber operations allegedly, like Stuxnet, they just never admitted it, right? Nowadays, they're willing to use that as an actual weapon. And if Venezuela is anything to go by, they spend a decent chunk of their GDP on cyber. I think it was 1% or 2%, which for Venezuela is a lot of money. It didn't help them. And I don't know, fundamentally, whether it's a problem of not enough funding or whether it's a problem of not enough focus, because most cyber spending is just ticking boxes and filling out forms.
Personally, I'm quite interested. Bharat, how do you think?
I think already in India it is being said a lot of time that we spend a lot of budget, a lot of money on the defense. So I would say within that budget only, India has to move from the physical equipment to the security intelligence. So I would say 5 to 6% from that need to be spent on this intelligence.
Not to be droll, but the amount that's needed. And I will go further to say that the governments need to spend as much as is needed, but also focus and tailor that spending to where it is most effective. You could spend that on something that doesn't solve the problem and be throwing money where it doesn't help. And I would add also, yes, it is a government responsibility, but there is also a corporate responsibility because just because a state actor might go against another state does not mean they are not going to go after the companies within that state. So it behooves corporations to be investing in their own cybersecurity as well. And again, the trite answer is as much as is needed, but tailoring it to where it is most effective.
So let's make it tangible. Wrap up this panel again. We are in the middle of people from all over the world. The web is just around the corner. What is the one recommendation you would make to people that are here representing their countries, representing their organizations, to focus in getting their organization ready for today, but also for the next 5 years? Let's start over there, Ariel.
I mean, simplest one, more cyber dollars and more policy needs to go towards real cyber defense and not just ticking boxes and making CIOs happy. I love my old CIO. It was great. But at the end of the day, right, most organizations don't have actually secure networks. They just have the paperwork to prove it. We need to do better.
I would say avoid hubris, because we don't know where this can go over the coming years. And that is the same for the people that are creating the technologies, and that is the same for the people who are regulating the technologies. So have a healthy degree of humility while coming at these problems in a way that is ethical and trying to find the best solutions.
I would add the same thing as he said on the humanity ground. I would say that collaborative approach is must needed for this whole scenario.
Thank you, Bharat. Alexander?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be to invest in people more than whatever cyber tools or so. So really create essentially a career paths for young people to develop and evolve in the security space.
So turning the weakest security link into the strongest security connection. Thank you very much. I think that gives us a great opportunity to wrap this up.